Hi, I'm Jim Belcher. I'm adjunct professor at Seminary. I want to talk about Christian leadership, which is really important. I think if there's one thing that I would have benefited from as a young pastor in my 20s, I've been in Christian leadership now for 35 years, that I would have really benefited from is more study on Christian leadership. I mean, you get a job and they hire you as a youth pastor or as a young adults minister, you get kind of thrown in. So you have the training in theology and you've spent a lot of time in the scriptures and you have a passion for what you want to do and you feel the calling of God, but you don't necessarily know how to be a leader. Some of it's natural, you may have a little bit of that. That's what kind of pushed you to the top of things, but there's no formal training. And then what happens is you get in, and the first thing generally that happens is you hit conflict. So you have this great vision and you know how to articulate it and you're excited about it, and then you don't understand why 100% of the people aren't following you. And oftentimes, if you push a little harder, you're going to step on toes. And then there's conflict. And we're not taught to really know how to deal with conflict as leaders. Matter of fact, when I was a young leader, I ran into a professor from Azusa Pacific. He was actually the father of one of the leaders in my group. And he said, "Oh, you're the leader of 20-something fellowship." He said, "Turn around, let me see the target on your back." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, if you're in leadership, there's a huge target on your back." He said, "You probably have a lot of scars from the arrows that have hit you." And I was like, "Yeah." And at that point, I wish I could have said, well, so how do you avoid this? How do you avoid the arrows in your back? You probably can't, but are there tools to kind of avoid them? Are there ways of leading in a way where you're not constantly stepping on toes? What are the ways of doing that? I might have found a book or two here and there. There was a lot of stuff on Christian leadership, but I would have benefited by studying it. I would have really benefited if I could have taken a whole class on it and gone through, what does the Bible say about Christian leadership? What are the biblical models that we can find, whether it's from the Apostle Paul and the way he dealt with Timothy or even with Barnabas? What does the scripture say? And then we're really big on common grace in the Reformed faith. So what are the other teachers out there say? What are the writers and the authors on leadership say? What can we benefit from those? What can we learn? What can we glean from those? Looking at them through a biblical lens. Because I think if we could do that together, then we could find ways to become better leaders. And we would discover the principles of doing that. And I think we would have a much better toolkit so that when we get into leadership situations, we would know how to handle them better. A lot of leaders, they run into conflict and they're just shining the bullshit. They're going to run it over and say, it's the highway, my way or the highway. But most Christian leaders, I would say, go the other path. And what they do is they avoid conflict. They don't want to deal with it at all. Everything's swept under the rug. And then it stays that way for a while, and then it all explodes. Either all on top of the pastor or on the congregation, and then you've got a massive conflict that you need to bring in outside people to kind of help mediate. And at that point, it's almost too late. And I think that most pastors would really benefit if they had the time to develop a toolkit, as well as kind of the principles and the vision for what Christian leadership looks like. That's what I'm passionate about, helping young pastors and even seasoned pastors and Christian leaders think through these issues.